Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newark Municipal Council special meeting and conference meeting. Madam President, in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice has been provided to the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and to the public at large establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call of those present, please?
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Present.
James, absent. Callum,
Here.
McIver,
Present.
Osborne,
Here.
Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Present.
Madam President, on the agenda for this meeting, we are on page 47, Resolution 7R2A is a professional services, ratifying, authorizing, and amending resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for a professional services contract. This is the First Amendment to the agreement to provide legal services as redevelopment land use counsel.
Any comments, questions?
I do have a comment. I see that this year we have a contract for $346,000, and it's listed here as a $150,000 contract. I just want to know why the difference in this.
Good morning, Council. Bisola Taiwo, EHD. So this is relating to the contract for 2018. The list you have in front of you is reflecting contracts for 2019. This amount amends last year's contract because they did work beyond their contract amount.
Okay, and so when are we shifting the work to somebody else? Because last year we were paid $350,000. This year the budget is for $150,000. So I suppose we're shifting.
As you can see from that list, we spread the amount across 8 vendors as opposed to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Clerk,
Roll call, Council of the Whole?
roll call.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Yes.
McCollum,
Yes.
McIver,
Yes.
Yes.
Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes.
7R2B is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for a professional services contract to provide major management services, project management services, including engineering services for the extension of the Newark Riverfront Park.
Comments, questions? Council as a whole.
Roll call, Council of the Whole.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
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 Osborne,
Yes.
Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
7R2C is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development declaring an area in need of redevelopment. 2D is a authorizing resolution.
Mr. Clerk, just a moment. Quickly, anyone have any information on this particular item from Councilman Amador?
No, being that is the eastward, I believe we should postpone it, defer it, because I don't know what.
We don't, that's my question.
Yes.
Thank you. Continue, Mr. Clerk. We'll come back and deal with that.
7R2D is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for declaring an area in need of redevelopment. This is Central Ward.
Next item.
2E is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development declaring an area in need of redevelopment. This is also Central Ward.
Next item, Mr. Clerk.
7R2F is a change order amending a contract to complete unforeseen field conditions for construction of the Riverfront Park expansion, Phase C, increasing contract amount and extend the contract completion date. 2G is a ratifying authorizing resolution for the One-Stop Career Center for Professional Services contract to authorize payment of state-approved list of eligible training providers. 2H is ratifying authorizing resolution for the One-Stop Career Center for Professional Services contract for pre-high and high school equivalency preparation classes. 2I is a ratifying authorizing resolution for the One-Stop Career Center for Professional Services contract to provide youth career readiness.
Through 7R2I.
What is,
Council as a whole?
what is the pleasure with the redevelopment area for East Ward? Are we,
I believe that, yes, we agreed to defer.
all right, then let's do them separately. 7R2C, Council of the Whole to defer.
Yes, roll call to defer.
Amador absent, Gonzalez,
Yes to defer.
Yes.
McCallum,
Yes.
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 Absent President Crump.
Yes.
Now, 7R2D through 7R2I, Council of the Whole to adopt.
Roll call, please.
Amador absent, Gonzalez,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McCallum,
Yes.
McIver,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Quintana absent, Ramos absent, President Crump.
Yes.
Let's go to the added starter pages. Seven R2J is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for an NREM foreclosure of various properties.
Question. Council President.
Council,
Where's the exhibit? On here it says, please see attached exhibit. Did we get that? I don't see it.
the question,
It's the,
Yeah, I don't have that. I need paper.
I need paper too. Is there someone who can respond to the councilwoman's question, the exhibit? In fact, the exhibit should have been made available to everyone.
some people, Madam President, some,
Can you share with us? Can you pull the microphone?
yes, some people are losing their property for $520, $492, $769. So it's a list of 20, and the balances go anywhere from $492 to $6,868.65. That's what the tax amount seemed to be, or the says here amount of sales. So I don't know if we sold a tax lien on these properties, and they haven't redeemed the tax lien.
I see the director, Mr. Turner, is here as well.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't know what, I thought it was going to be an added starter.
It is.
It is
Oh, it
an
is.
starter.
My ears must be stuffed up. Good morning.
Morning.
Council President, council members. Is this the foreclosure resolution?
Yes.
Yes. This is something that we have after every tax sale. These are properties that got struck off to the municipality. They wasn't picked up by an investor. We have to wait 6 months after the tax sale before we can prepare a foreclosure list. So this is the foreclosure list that's presented in front of you. I think the interest date is going to 12/31, but the fourth quarter is not included.
Okay, so, and this says here re-foreclosure. So we foreclosed on these properties before?
I don't know, the title page shouldn't say re-foreclosure. It should,
Say in rem re-foreclosure.
oh, well, I'm up here for the wrong thing. Well, okay. I apologize then. Well, it is a re-foreclosure. These are properties that might have had some difficulty in them closing, so they had to re-foreclosure it because whatever particular reason why. I'm sorry.
So
I
this
thought
is
it was-
property that the city already foreclosed on, and there was some mistake.
Right.
We are correcting it.
Right, and so they have to go through the process again of re-foreclosing it. I thought this was the added starter for the foreclosure list, I'm sorry.
It is an added starter, and it is the foreclosure. So a couple of quick questions.
That's the list. Just in case.
Are any of these properties inhabited? Is anyone living?
Well, actually, some of these foreclosure properties, most of the times, if people didn't pay their taxes, there's people living in it. I don't know if they're abandoned or not. That's another department that does that. But I assume that if they didn't pay their taxes, there's somebody living in there. This is the re-foreclosure list, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Council members, Angela Foster, First
Oh,
Assistant
yes.
Corp Counsel. So it's about 20 properties that we are re-foreclosing on. Like Director Turner said, these are properties where there's an issue with respect to the title, and so we're doing the re-foreclosure to essentially clear the title so that the city will be able to, sell the property. It's 20 properties we had gotten from Annette Muhammad as well as the director. Also, that list should have been in Legistar. It was included as one of the exhibits.
I have it electronic.
Councilman?
On paper, we don't have it.
Thank you.
That's it for the re-foreclosure.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Angela,
Mr. Clerk.
if I could ask a question. So these properties were already in the process of being sold, and the title wasn't clear, and now we are doing it so that we can
Yes.
complete the sale.
Yes, so these properties were part of one of our older foreclosure lists. I don't know if it was the last
Right.
foreclosure that we had or prior to that. And the title was not clear, so that's why we're doing another re-foreclosure, because
Who discovered that the title wasn't clear? Is it was something that we did, or something that the attorney for the buyers discovered that the title wasn't clear, and we are doing it so that the sale can be completed?
it's the latter. It's not something that we did, it's the latter.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Mr. Clerk?
So these are properties that are not going to be transferred to the land bank if the land bank were to be
You stole my question.
because these properties are already in the process of being sold. Okay.
So the answer to that question is no. Is that correct, Angela? Or Mr. B.A.?
Good morning, Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. It's not necessarily true. If the properties are not sold, then they may well be part of a group of properties. Once the land bank is established, that will go to the land bank, subject to the City Council's approval.
Any other questions for the BA? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call. Let's see, I didn't look on the other page.
Absent Gonzalez,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Reluctantly, yes. Next item.
7R2K is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the private sale and redevelopment to rehabilitate the property to create rental or for-sale housing.
Sponsor.
Is there a second through the sponsor?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Amador, absent Gonzalez,
Yes.
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 Osborne,
Yes.
Quintana, absent Ramos, absent President Trump.
Yes.
Madam President, before we move on, I do appreciate the information that Keith is providing to us.
Yes.
I would like to see more, an extensive search for comparables and not just only one or two properties that might not be in the same area as the property that is being sold. I believe that we have to be more comprehensive in the research. But I do appreciate that he's providing some valuable information regarding the properties that have been sold in the area regarding comparables, but I believe that it should be extended.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Let's go on for a moment. 7R2M is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the private sale and redevelopment to create gated ancillary parking for the adjacent 22-unit apartment building.
Sponsor.
Second. Roll call.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
I'm going to abstain on that.
James,
Yes.
McCallum,
Yes.
McIver,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Donna absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
7R2N is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development to investigate an area in need of redevelopment.
Comments, questions?
No comment.
Council as a whole. Roll call, please.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Abstain.
James,
Yes.
McCallum,
Yes.
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Donna absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
Madam President?
Next, yes.
I believe the order was altered because we didn't vote on the one for UCC, United Community Corporation, and I heard that that was for parking, and the one for parking is somebody else's.
Anyone here to respond? Part of the problem,
No, it's
Mr.
I believe
Clerk.
the clerk missed the one for UCC.
Right.
I see it.
Councilman, the problem is this added starter business at the last minute. We're missing a page from the added starter list. I have the legislation here in front of me. It is 7R2L is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the private sale and redevelopment, to new construction and/or rehabilitation of properties to create approximately 10 two-family homes for sale or moderate income, to moderate income families.
Yeah, Madam President.
Yes.
The problem that I have with that is that normally when we sell properties to non-for-profits, it's for the non-for-profit purpose of the entity. In this case, UCC is building homes that they are going to build and sell for a profit. So I believe that that's not the purpose of transferring the property for the non-for-profits. I believe that that's the purpose was, when we, let's say, created that, was to have an entity use it for the exempt purpose.
Any other comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. BA?
To the Eric Pennington, Business Administrator, to the extent there's a question embedded in there, the representation isn't 100% accurate. There are nonprofits who are charged with building and developing properties.
If that's the exempt purpose of that, but I don't think UCC has that as an exempt purpose.
You said it's not as an exempt purpose?
Purpose. They say, I would love to see their charter to make sure that that's part of the exemption that they got from the IRS.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I presume that the information they provided was sufficient to warrant the transfer of the property to them for the purpose for which it's intended, and that is part of what they're allowed to do under their charter. If not, they're subject to some tax implications,
It's their problem, yeah.
That's it.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, but the purpose of the city transferring properties to these tax-exempt organizations was that the property be used by them for the exempt purpose. If we are transferring properties for $2 a square foot that we can sell for $12, $15 a square foot, so what we're doing is shifting the profit from the city to somebody else.
Except that in this particular case, Councilman, it's a nonprofit entity that is developing properties that are going to be used by individuals for the intended purpose of the city to transfer those properties to
The
them.
intended purpose of the city, but not the exempt purpose of the organization.
I can't,
I think that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
When it comes to
It's
that.
a matter of opinion,
Yeah,
but
no, and it's okay. It really is okay, but it's a matter of opinion.
Council President?
And,
I would
and the
love-
majority,
I would love to see, and I would request that we get from UCC a copy of their exemption letter indicating that they are authorized to develop properties and sell the properties.
Council
Mr.
President?
Clerk, so requested. Councilwoman McIver.
I just want to say, I have been in communication with UCC regarding this project, which is going to be beneficial to people of the city in terms of it being sold it's for home ownership, but at low price. So I'm very supportive of this project. I do understand what the councilman is asking. However, for me, that's not really my concern. We only can govern what we can govern here, but it is a legit concern. But I am 100% supportive of this project and UCC getting these properties. I do want to say, while $12 at square foot sounds really good, these particular properties are not selling at $12 per square foot if you've seen the location. It is very needed in this area. I actually just walked these blocks last week where every day somebody is pulling up illegally dumping on these lots. And residents who live on the block, the few that are there, are coming out cleaning them every day, and they are tired of that. And so here we have a nonprofit who is a staple in the city of Newark who wants to develop these properties, and so I'm 100% supportive of this. So number one, we can clean up the block. And so definitely I ask for the support of the council for this added starter.
Second.
Roll call.
As indicated before, it's a matter of opinion.
Yes, it is. Roll call, please.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
No.
James,
Yes.
Gallo,
Yes.
Guyver,
Yes.
Yes.
Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Seven R 20 is a professional services contract to provide work readiness, leadership, academic support, and enrichment services. This is for the department, this is One Stop Career Center.
Which one,
Council as a whole.
which one is that?
This is the top of page 5.
7R20.
To what?
Top of page
7
5.
R 20.
Okay, okay.
Council of the Whole?
Roll call.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes.
President, I would like to change my vote on 2M. That's the Clinton Commons to
On 2M?
a yes.
Yes.
Yes, is that the other ones were, since I was, let's say,
Right.
following this and the clerk has skipped one.
We got you. We have you. Mr. Clerk,
Yes, ma'am.
someone asked me about this during the weekend. Is this a program, and I did not have a chance to do any research between Saturday and today, unfortunately. Are we able to recommend people for the program? Is there anyone here from Rutgers who can answer that question? If not, can we reach out to the program to find out?
I believe this is something that 990 send the people over. They go over there and 990 refers them to Rutgers for
Right. Well, they wanted to know, could someone be
go
recommended?
to 990 and 990 refers them over to Rutgers.
You know what that means. I'm sorry. Next item, please forgive me.
Thank you.
Madam President, the next three added starters are workmen's compensation claims. I'd like to skip over those so that we can do a brief executive session and get an understanding from Corporation Counsel of what they are involved. So let's go to 7R8A, which is the authorizing resolution for the Office of Municipal Council City Clerk for the reappointment of the council representative to the Second River Joint Meeting. This is Councilman McCallum. And to 7R8B is the reappointment of Councilman Ramos to the Joint Meeting of Essex and Union Counties.
Sponsor.
Second.
Roll call.
Amador absent.
Madam President, I don't see, I don't have those in my electronic thing here.
Oh, you don't have, you want a piece of paper?
These
You want
are
a piece of paper?
added starters.
Somewhere in the mix, a combination of both is the optimum.
Yes, do we know this?
Roll call, finish, roll call.
Amador absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
MacGyver.
Yes.
Yes.
Absent. Ramos absent. President Trump.
Yes. Mr. Clerk, can we also do the street dedication?
7R8C is
yes.
a authorizing resolution for the Office of the Municipal Council City Clerk for a ceremonial street dedication. Council of the whole?
Council as a whole, roll call.
Amador absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Absent. McCallum.
Yes.
MacGyver.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Donna absent. Ramos absent. President Trump.
Yes.
7R12A is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Water Sewer Utilities for a professional services contract for environmental consulting services. Council of the whole to adopt.
Council as a whole.
Amador absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
James. Absent. McCallum.
Yes.
MacGyver.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Donna absent. Ramos absent. President Trump.
Yes.
Let's go back to the regular agenda. On communications, 8A is an ordinance amending ordinance 6 PSNFG adopted on January 9, 2019 for a tax abatement granted to the Duke Realty Newark Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law to include a community benefit contribution intended but mistakenly omitted from the financial agreement for a project to construct a new state-of-the-art 661,539 square foot industrial warehouse building. Council of the whole to advance
Council,
the
I'm
first
sorry,
reading.
Mr. Clerk, council as a whole.
Amador absent. Gonzalez.
Yes, we should, Madam President, we should
Yes.
advance and adopt them first.
I don't have a problem, and you have, and have
This is something that
Mr.
has been
lingering.
laboring for a long time.
Mr. Clerk, we will adopt,
Advance and adopt on
first.
first. So the vote is to advance and adopt on first
Yes.
as 6FA.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McCallum.
Yes.
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 President Trump.
yes.
Mr. Clerk, I'd like to note my vote yes on the previous two
Yes.
items. Thank you.
8B is a ordinance amending Title II Administration to remove the public advertising requirement of all executive orders of the mayor. Council of the whole to advance to first reading.
Yes. Advance to first.
Amador absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McCallum.
Yes.
MacGyver.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Donna absent. Ramos absent. President Trump.
Absolutely.
Madam President,
Yes.
transparency calls for publication of everything that we do, and I believe we are here going against the grain by allowing the executive orders not to be published before or after they are signed by the mayor. I believe that we should send on the side of, or err on the side of publishing everything and not withholding information from the public. I believe that the public should know all the executive orders that are signed by the mayor and have their opinion on whether they agree or disagree. I believe that transparency should be a most.
I have an opinion. Would someone like to respond from the administration?
Madam President,
Is that a no? No, Mitty.
Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. We respect Councilman Gonzalez's opinion.
Thank you.
We have a different approach with respect to executive orders. In this case, the information is not being hidden. There's still transparency involved. The information is available to be inspected, and the council can say whatever it wants to say with respect to any of those executive orders.
My for what it's worth, Councilman, my yes vote, support vote, is because I've seen too many redacted articles put out by those who have a different opinion. And I can't speak for you, but I can certainly speak for myself. I get misinformation where in the beginning it was for the purpose of informing the public. But unfortunately, there are those who are opposed to the administration and will do anything in their power to sway the public opinion. And here again, it's something that has occurred on so many occasions for me, and I find it's going to, there are items and information that if someone wants to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, they can come up to our office, they can go to the mayor's office. But they choose to redact and to twist an executive order that has been made public to their own purpose. And I am opposed to that. Mr. Clerk, next item.
8C is an ordinance adopting the Fifth Amendment to the Newark Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan to correct certain errors identified in the Third Amendment to the Newark Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan by removing certain properties. Council of the Whole to advance to first reading?
Advance. Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McCallum,
Yes.
Guyver,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump,
Yes.
8D is an ordinance to amend Title 15 Solid Waste Management, Chapter 8 Disposal Facilities, and Dumping Article 4 owner to maintain premises free of litter, and revised general ordinance of the City of Newark. This would increase fines for offenses.
Sponsor.
Second.
I would like to advance and adopt on first.
Absolutely. Immediately.
6FB. Roll call.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
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 Quintana, absent. Ramos, absent. President Trump,
Yes.
Madam President, the items adopted today on first reading will be advertised in accordance with law, and a public hearing will be held at the Public Council meeting of August 7th, beginning at 12:30 p.m. here in the council chamber. Before we close this meeting, Madam President, I would like to call for a brief executive session to give the Corporation Council an opportunity to speak on the 3 added starters, which are settlements of workers' compensation claims.
Okay.
We will get to that later.
So can we do it now?
You want to do that now? Yes. And then before we go into executive session, we will do the public speaking portion. This is a 30-minute period in which speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. When you step to the microphones, please state your name and address for the record. You'll see a small timer on the podium in front of you, which will begin counting down your time when you begin speaking. When you reach the 3-minute mark, the yellow light will illuminate, indicating that you have 1 minute remaining for summation. When you reach your 3rd minute, the red light will illuminate, indicating that your time has expired. Please address questions to the chair, not to individual council members. Please look forward, speak into the microphone. We are recording these proceedings, and if you turn away, we may miss part of your statement. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak at this time?
Ms. Thomas, this is you changed your mind since you came downstairs?
Shirley Thomas, 296 South Orange Avenue in the city of Newark, West Ward, District 47 leader. I had questions for Councilman James and Councilman West. I will speak to them on the outside. It's in reference to having work done when we're on the county road or the city road. The apartment is on the corner of South Orange Avenue, South 6th Street. And every time something happens, it takes weeks to get a response from the county. Also, we were down for taxes, but that's going to deal with Habitat for Humanity at another time. In the South Ward, we were told that the churches will have to pay for their garbage removal, and then they changed their minds. I personally put garbage out on Wednesday. When I went to church on Sunday, the garbage is still sitting there on the corner of 15th Leslie Street, Newark, South Ward.
Thank you. Anyone else appearing? No one else appearing, Mr. Clerk. Roll call for executive session. I do recognize the fact that we have a delegation from NEDC. Is it NEDC? NEDC, and we will be hearing your schedule for the conference, not the regular agenda. I'm explaining this so you won't think we're inviting you out inappropriately. But your schedule for what's called our conference session, and that comes after hi Norma, and that comes after the
regular meeting.
After the regular meeting.
Where would it be? Do we have
Let's do it.
we're going to do executive session. Yes. I don't.
Call for the executive session?
Yeah, yeah, for 5 minutes.
What do you think?
5 minutes.
Amador absent, Gonzalez.
Yes,
Just a moment, just a moment.
yes.
I'm conferring with my colleague.
It's 5 minutes.
Is the director here, Mr. Hall?
Come back in, that takes 10 minutes to go.
That presentation is like,
I happen to agree with my council colleagues, and the clerk is not going to be very happy. But we would prefer to hear from NEDC before we go into executive session. Just hold up 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, so we've decided unanimously that we're going to hear from NEDC. We're going to reverse the process. I understand. We know. We figured that by the time they get out, it's 5 minutes and 5 minutes to come back in. So
That means, right, that means that we're not closing the voting meeting at this point. We are, however, moving forward into the conference meeting. You want to do I know, that's why we're not closing the meeting. We'll come back to it.
the reason I'm standing, for those of you who don't know me, I'm real short. and I just want to make sure the clerk sees me. I don't wear stilettos. I used to.
This conference meeting.
Councilwoman does. Ms. Rogers, can I see you and Angela on the?
In the conference meeting, and we're going to do the second item of the conference meeting, the land bank presentation. Mr. Hall, you are, if you'll come forward. One moment, ladies and gentlemen, we had engineering set up in the computer. We need to bring the CDC into focus. Mr. Hall, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and honorable members of the Newark City Council. My name is Brunel Hall, and I am the President and CEO of the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation. Seated to my right behind us is my team. Everybody stand up. We acknowledge, wave. Thank you. As well as one of our land use consultants who is also going to be presenting before council today. Today, we've come before you to discuss land banking, specifically how land banks work, how they work in the city of Newark to eradicate blight, boost home ownership rates, and accelerate neighborhood-based economic development. According to HUD, a land bank is a not-for-profit entity established to assemble, temporarily manage, and dispose of vacant land for the purpose of stabilizing neighborhoods and encouraging reuse or redevelopment of urban property. In practical terms, a land bank is an economic development tool that aggregates and dispenses land for the purposes of getting foreclosed properties that are not currently producing revenue to the tax rolls back into the tax roll system. While land bank may be a new concept to the state of New Jersey, it's a concept that has been well studied and successfully implemented in numerous states. The idea began in St. Louis in 1971 and has since spread to more than a dozen states. Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Georgia, and many others have used the land bank concept to eliminate blight and to add to their tax rolls throughout their urban communities. We've studied and visited several of these states, including Philadelphia and Detroit, Michigan, and we have adopted best practices and continue to do so with the commitment to implement them at the highest levels. It is important to know that land banks are not a tool for eminent domain, nor do land banks compete with existing municipal redevelopment strategies. On the contrary, land banks complement existing municipal redevelopment strategies by expediting the assemblage of vacant and tax delinquent properties in lockstep with current municipal zoning, planning, and code enforcement guidelines. Land banks also further transparency and continuity to the city via online property database and online auction software that synchronizes and publishes all designations, acquisitions, and sales. The Detroit Land Trust uses a program called Salesforce. In fact, to maximize transparency, Detroit Land Bank's executives have purchased 50 Salesforce licenses and distributed them to their mayor's office, business administrator, city council, and their chiefs of staffs, and the members of their planning and building and code enforcement teams. We plan to take a similar approach so that each of you and your staff have the ability to view the status of land bank transactions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Further, as per the State of New Jersey Land Bank Ordinance, we're required to establish a community advisory board through advisement from you all, as well as the administration, in order to have a group that convenes at least annually to review land bank transactions and make recommendations for change to help us to continue to progress towards our goal of eradicating blight and boosting neighborhood-based economic development in the city. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we have a team of 15 high-level real estate and economic development professionals with combined $26 billion in real estate transaction experience and an average of 20 years of business and real estate development experience. Now open the floor for questions.
Are there questions for the director?
Yeah, I have a question. Good morning, Director.
Good morning.
My concern is a concern that I've had all along is once the properties are turned over to you, how will you maintain them? Being your quasi-governmental organization, how will you maintain the properties once they're turned over to you?
Right.
As of now, I call code enforcement, or we send an email to code enforcement, sanitation, and that's how it's dealt with. How will you deal with them?
By working in lockstep with code enforcement through the Salesforce online database, we'll all have access to the same information. We'll also be procuring...
Same resources?
No, sir. We'll be adding the online software to synchronize it and make it more transparent. We'll also be procuring a property maintenance company, a real estate demolition company, as well as other high-level consultants to help us to not only maintain the properties, but to redevelop the properties in an efficient manner.
Could you be more specific when you say we'll manage it?
I know it sounds good.
Yes.
One of the greatest complaints, or the most numerous of complaints, is cleanliness. And when lots, especially those lots, when they're in a process waiting, to be redeveloped, the weeds grow. I have to tell you, just drive by them. But the difference is they don't call you, they call us.
Sure.
And so what do you plan to do specifically is there a rotation of mowing the grass, the weeds actually, people who dump on the property that that's been abandoned, they feel that it's okay, it's not okay.
Right. So we have a second presentation to get into more of the technical details about how land banks work, but I do want to answer this question prior to going into that. We are going to, as I mentioned, procure high-level property management companies that have actually dealt with blighted properties and will be doing so on our behalf as their sole job. I think one of the issues that many cities face is that you have a staff that have a ton of properties that they have to address on an ongoing basis with limited amount of capacity. And having a focus group from the outside that is paid to do this day after day, every day of the week, and report into us via an online database that we'll all be able to see as it relates to the status of the properties, whether they have a code violation, whether they're designated, or so on and so forth. It'll actually make the process more transparent, and there'll be a group that's more focused on that in a way in which does not currently exist.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
Yes, I do have a little bit of experience with land banking. I went to Harvard for a week studying land banking with a group from the state. And my question to you is financing. How is your operation going to be financed? You have a staff of like 13 people, or probably more, and you're going to, let's say, to contract with an outside firm to do the property management. Yeah. How are you going to generate the revenue without depending on the city? Because I believe that you should be self-sufficient if you're going to have a staff of that size and contracts with outside consultants. I believe that you should strive to be self-sufficient and not be a charge to the city of Newark and to the residents of the city of Newark. So I would love to see your projection in terms of income that you are going to generate so to support that structure.
Yeah, this is something that we study everywhere we went. So I'll just give you an example. In Detroit, they have a $20 million operation. They receive significant funds from foundations who we've already begun having discussions with, as well as other social impact investment funds. And they married that to city funds to get the land bank up and operational. The goal going forward is, through dispositions and redevelopment, to be able to become self-sufficient. That being said, there will be a period of time, just with any new operation, where there will need to be funds from the city. And going forward, the ideal is for those funds to become smaller and smaller as properties return to the tax roll, and there's less properties that actually have to be managed, developed, and or disposed.
Let's say Michigan, Genesee County was one of the first that had the land bank, and it was a county operation and not a city operation. So they had more access to better properties, and they have access to more foundations in order to generate some revenue. So in this case, we're limited more or less to the city of Newark in terms of properties and in terms of perhaps financing of the operation. So I don't see any comparable or comparison between what Genesee did and what we're trying to do. If I were to be operating a new entity, I would start with, let's say, a skeleton personnel and grow as the operation grows. You're starting the operation with the president, vice president, assistant vice president of this, assistant vice president of that. So how are you going to generate the revenue to pay all this staff?
Yeah, so despite opinion, land banks aren't necessarily the house for only the worst properties, right? It's a combination of vacant and blighted properties that may be, in fact, in valued neighborhoods. But I just want to kind of agree.
That's one of the objections that we have, because I believe now we, the council, approve every sale that happens of every lot in the city of Newark. By transferring the power to you, that power is taken from us. You're not coming to us on the agreement, unless I would love to see the agreement between the city or the land bank and the city in terms of disposition of properties, in terms of how say you are going to get approval from us to dispose of the properties, how the properties are going to be transferred to you, what are your obligations regarding those properties. I would love to see that in writing before I am willing to vote for approval of the transfer.
Yeah, so today the idea was to educate both the council and the public on what a land bank is and how it could possibly work. In terms of the details that you're asking for, I think that is an ongoing discussion with the administrator taking the lead. But I do want to address something you said earlier. You mentioned Genesee County and Michigan, and how they had a tough time making the land bank self-sufficient because of the lack of a market for home ownership or business expansion out into their neighborhoods. One of the beautiful things about Newark is it's a coastal city with a river, with a seaport, with an international airport, with 5 major highways within 30 minutes of each other. The only thing holding Newark from reaching its potential as one of the greatest cities in the country is blighted property, from my perspective, because it keeps investment from coming into the city. Whereas Michigan doesn't have a natural economic driver or incentive or interest in some of their counties, we have we have the opposite situation. We have a bustling seaport, a bustling international airport. We are 30 minutes from New York. So from my perspective, we're going to see property values go up in such a way that it currently doesn't exist, while at the same time giving us funds for other programs, including affordable housing, local and MWBE co-development opportunities, as well as school funding, because we have a market that doesn't exist over there.
I would love.
It will take time for
love
this to happen.
I would love to continue the discussion with you, but I believe that, let's say, this is not the time for that, because, let's say, the property has been there for, in some cases, for 30 years, vacant, and hasn't been sold. The conditions that you're mentioning have been there for the 30 years, and the property hasn't transferred ownership. So I believe that it's nice to hear what you're saying, but I don't think it will have the effect that you anticipate it will have, because the properties have been dilapidated for, in some cases, more than 30 years, and they haven't been sold. And the city of Newark has gone through a couple of rehabilitation programs, a couple of renaissance programs. So I believe that we should listen to the presentation that you have, and then we will have, I would love to have a more detailed conversation with you regarding that.
Absolutely. So with that, we're going to segue into our follow-up presentation, which is a technical overview of land banking, which will be presented by Mindy Watts, who is a land bank expert from the city of Philadelphia and works for Interface Studios.
Okay, I think everybody has a packet of slides, and we're pulling up the
We don't have it.
presentation as well. But thank you for your time this morning. As Mr. Hall mentioned, my name is Mindy Watts. I'm a city planner working with a private company called Interface Studio. We're based in Philadelphia. And we've been hired by the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation about a month ago, and we've been working with Mr. Hall and his team just for a few weeks now to kind of test the need and opportunity of a land bank, a municipal land bank here in Newark. So this is our first conversation, and I'm just going to share a little bit of what we've learned about the landscape of vacancy in your city, a little bit of information about how land banks work in general, and as we're still early in our engagement with the EDC, I'd be happy to take questions, and if you have things that you would like us to answer as we continue with our work and research over the coming months. So before I jump in, just a little bit more about Interface Studio and our qualifications for being here today. We've been in business for 15 years. We work on citywide policy strategies and policy plans, as well as neighborhood plans. Pretty much all of the cities that we work in are grappling with this issue of vacancy to varying degrees and working on creative ways to put those properties back to reuse. A lot of the cities that we have worked in do have land banks as a tool, one of the tools that they can use to reactivate vacant property. And most recently, our work in the city of Philadelphia has been to write the update of the strategic plan for the Philadelphia Land Bank. So the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation was looking for someone who kind of speaks the land bank language, understands land bank operations and strategy, and so that's our role here. So I think a couple slides down. Thank you. So, big picture, or can you go one more? Sorry. Up. I don't have the clicker. Oh, I do. Great. Okay. So a land bank is really a tool to facilitate redevelopment and reuse, and it's not intended to be something that holds property over the long term. It's really about an entity that can take land in, whether that's city-owned vacant property that's not currently on the tax rolls, or privately held vacant property that gets put into the land bank. And really the big picture of the purpose of the land bank is to put that land back out into private hands for redevelopment or reuse. And so it can, the land bank can look to take vacant structures and whether they're able to be rehabilitated for housing at affordable price points, mixed income or market rate, or it can assemble properties, demolish properties that are unsafe and need to come down, and put properties back out for redevelopment. So it could support commercial and economic development. It could support new housing, as I mentioned. It could be side yards or community gardens or community services. Really, it depends on kind of what is the land use strategy of the city and what are the market conditions where these vacant properties are located. So big picture at the citywide scale, land banks can have a lot of different benefits. It can put those properties back on the tax rolls, which supports municipal finance and funding for the school district. It can help improve public safety by targeting nuisance properties where there's illegal activity or illicit dumping, and kind of putting those back into active use in a well-maintained, cared-for situation. It can create or drive development and create opportunities for small businesses, local businesses, minority contractors, et cetera. But really, at the kind of block scale, a place where a neighborhood where people live, the land bank can intervene or disrupt this cycle of vacancy. So where a property right now is abandoned, it becomes tax delinquent, it goes to tax sale, maybe a speculator buys it and doesn't take action with that, and eventually the property kind of re-enters that cycle. So the idea is that the land bank steps in, clears the title, puts that land back out to productive use for a range of different uses that I already kind of described. So when we think about establishing a new municipal land bank, there's really two key factors that are important to determining whether it's a worthwhile endeavor and makes sense in your city. The first is that you have an inventory of vacant and abandoned properties, and these are often in markets where the real estate market isn't really healthy and functioning. So we've done a quick scan of the vacancy in Newark, and we have a sense that certainly it's clustered in certain pockets and parts of the city, but it is something that is present and in each ward. The second ingredient or factor is that there is a cumbersome acquisition and disposition process. So a lengthy step, multiple step process that can cause development deals to fall through, can cause delays. And so the land bank, the idea is that it sort of changes that dynamic. So the next two slides that you have are some initial mapping of the vacancy in the city of Newark.
That's a question.
Yes.
As to how the process is shorter in the land bank than it is, let's say, through the city?
Sure. So I think the details have yet to be worked out. So the land bank legislation was signed, just a couple weeks ago, and really there's a formal agreement that needs to be set up, and then there's acquisition and disposition policies. So there's a lot of details that need to be arranged.
Let's say you are going to acquire the property through foreclosure or a property that the city already owns. The city has to go through the same process of foreclosure.
Yes.
I believe the city has the statute in New Jersey allows the city to do it quicker than it would allow, I believe, the land bank, unless the same statute applies to the land bank that applies to the city.
That's
so that's a question
yes,
I don't know.
The acquisition process, it is a legal proceeding that really it has certain steps and certain notice requirements so there's not as much play on that end. But on the disposition side, there are opportunities to kind of structure it such that the land bank has some flexibility in terms of, if a property value is underneath a certain threshold, they're, empowered to dispose of properties above a certain threshold. Perhaps it's something that requires more discussion and debate. But so those details all get kind of worked out, and they're very important. But I think that we have found that there's more play, more room for tightening that timeline on the disposition side. Okay, so the first map here shows the vacant property in the city of Newark that is city-owned. So we know that there's just over 1,800 vacant properties that are on the city's kind of inventory of vacant property, and the table has it broken out by ward. Most of them, I should say, are vacant lots, so the buildings have been demolished. The second map shows vacant property in Newark that is privately owned and abandoned. And so I think here we are seeing a piece of the puzzle. It's over 900 properties, and these are places that are registered with the city as a vacant structure. And so they are residential in nature. I would say that it seems to me that we're missing some subset of vacant properties that are commercial or industrial in nature and are still privately owned and possibly tax delinquent. But so these would sort of be those two different buckets, the publicly held vacant properties and the privately held abandoned properties that would be potentially fed into the land bank and then put back out for reuse. So that's 2,800 properties that would be potentially up for consideration as land bank eligible.
So, quick question. Unfortunately, I stepped away from my seat and I did not get a copy of the document that you're referring to. It's in my folder. Where?
Behind the blue.
Anyway, the question, Mr. Hall, it's okay, honest. Councilman found it. What's the total number of vacant and abandoned properties?
So it's
City-owned and privately owned?
Yes. It's 1,867 that are city-owned
You said that already.
and 925 that we know of that are privately held. So together, that's just shy of 2,800 properties. I think that number is we have more work to do to just make sure that we're seeing the full picture of the privately owned vacant property in the city.
Okay, that was my concern.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we've started those conversations to figure out, where the gaps are that we
thank
can
you.
fill in. All right, oops. So the next slide that says goal at the top, this is really just kind of a diagram to explain that right now we've got these multiple step processes. On the left side, it's land that would be going into the land bank. So there's the tax foreclosure process for the privately held tax delinquent properties that we know that process takes between 12 and 20 months. There's also the publicly owned land that would need to be put into the land bank, some of it or all of it. And then really what we're working towards is this sort of streamlined process of disposition. So putting that land from this, the land bank, acting on behalf of the city, into private hands for redevelopment. And so we're looking to have a more streamlined, fewer steps, faster process to reactivate these vacant parcels. So this land bank tool has been used for multiple applications. In my hometown of Philadelphia, they've used the land bank to assemble land for affordable housing projects, for new workforce housing developments built in new construction, for renovation, for market rate home ownership. We've done private individual side yards, community gardens, and farming projects. And there's also an example on this page from Grand Rapids, which has used the land bank for industrial development site preparation and for commercial development as well. So I should say that that's something that's important to understand, is that every land bank sort of has its own mission and set of goals, and that has yet to be really fleshed out here, but that will drive the work of the land bank. And so what does this mean for Newark? So we know that this is a new tool for the state of New Jersey. The enabling legislation was signed on July 10th. Newark is poised to be sort of the first out of the gate with a municipal land bank for the state. And so the way it works is that the city can designate a nonprofit entity, in this case, the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation, to act as the land bank entity. And as I mentioned before, there's this land banking agreement that sort of explains the need for the land bank, the public purpose that would be served, the qualifications of the Community Economic Development Corporation to fulfill that role. It really sets the terms for what they're charged with doing. The public would have input into that agreement. Municipal Council has input into that agreement and really would be charged with ultimately adopting an ordinance that would establish the land bank and incorporate that agreement. The land bank legislation requires that there's transparency, that there's data sharing that would happen within the city as well as with the general public, so you can track the transactions, that you can track the holdings, and that there's community oversight. So there's, I think the new entity is empowered to take actions, but it's also required to take actions to make sure that it's fulfilling its public purpose. So otherwise, I'll just conclude with our next steps. We're going to be doing a similar presentation this evening that will be hosted by the Newark People's Assembly here. The Community Economic Development Corporation will be working with your offices to set up follow-up conversations within each ward for the public. And our work as the consultant team is to kind of keep working to make sure that we have an accurate understanding of the vacant property in the city, to review the market conditions and understand, what's going on near these vacant properties and give some sort of guidance as terms of what would be that end use and what might be the sale price for different types of end uses. And so we'll be kind of compiling our analysis and our findings in a summary report with some recommendations within a few months. And so
We have a question from Councilman James.
Good afternoon, good morning, sir. In the South Ward, we have a lot of vacant commercial properties on the corridors. What special tool and what kind of time frame would it take you to get these from privately owned owners back into, be rehabbed or put back where they could be used and operated? Because they take up entire blocks in the South Ward.
Sure. So if they're privately held and tax delinquent, they would be, subject to a tax foreclosure and tax sale process. The land bank would be able to take those in through that process, and then, I think that could be one of the kind of customized end outputs that the CEDC would be well positioned to build through the land bank that says, okay, what is the vision for these properties? Who are potential owners for those properties? And so I think the timeline, it's hard to give you an exact answer since it hasn't been done yet, and we're still kind of building the infrastructure. I think there is a little bit of a startup period, but I think that's a really good example of something where there's a targeted problem that the land bank can focus on and figure out, a strategy to change.
And then just to add on that, and Bernard, you can jump in. Some of them pay their taxes, but they just don't occupy their premises. And so, I would hope that the land bank would have some kind of tool to come in and say, hey, you have to keep your property fixed up, you have to keep it clean, and preferably get another commercial client or leasee in there, because they just, add to the blight by staying vacant.
Yeah. So I just want to speak to the first
Please
question.
state your name. We all know who you are, however, it's a part of the protocol.
Yes, madam. Brunel Hall, President and CEO of the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation. We're still fleshing out best practice as it relates to the acquisition policy. The disposition policies at land banks are generally uniform in that they're expedited relative to the current municipal processes in each of the cities we visited. One of the acquisition policies that we deem to be extremely valuable to us is one that we learned from the Kent County Land Bank, which is Grand Rapids, Michigan. Via the land bank and trust agreement with the municipality, they are able to clear title in up to 60 days, which would speak right to what the issue that you just mentioned. The other piece is one of the great things about bringing in a property management and code enforcement a group that is going to focus on this every day, as well as synchronizing all of this online, is that we all have the same information. So rather than it being a situation where you have to wait to the next council meeting for someone from the public or from one of you to bring up this issue, this is actually something in Detroit that, literally you put in a comment section like you would at Facebook, right? There's an issue going on at this property, blah, blah. It immediately goes into this database. Detroit uses Salesforce.com. We're still weighing different types of databases, and it gets to the land bank. It goes to our procured property management partner, and they react to it quickly.
Thank you.
Any other?
Madam President, if I
Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
Who is in the process of preparing the agreement between the land bank and the city?
We're working with the business administrator and the mayor's office.
And when is it going to be, let's say, presented to us so that we can input?
As we move forward, exactly. Once we work through an initial draft, which should be over the next 2 months, we will be coming back with with Mindy's findings as well as a draft of the agreement to move forward in the discussion collectively.
I would love to see something that Genesee County has in that agreement, that is, that they obtain automatic title once the property has gone through auction in the city. The city has first
Yes.
choice of selling the property at auction, and if the property doesn't sell at auction, then it goes to the land bank, so that the city will have, let's say, the possibility of selling it without having to go through the land bank and possibly getting a better price for it. I would like to see that included in the agreement.
Well, I mean, those are the type of ideas we want to make sure we collect and discuss over the next couple of months as we learn more about best practice for land banks throughout the country.
Mr. Hall, I know that you and I have been trying to meet, but with your schedule and my schedule, it hasn't happened. But we're going to make it happen. This is probably one of the most innovative steps that the city of Newark has taken, and believe me, it's being discussed by persons in our community. I want to thank the administration for setting up the meeting tonight. I hope most people know that it's in Annette. Do they know it's in City Hall? As opposed to, because someone asked me, because they're used to the assembly meetings being held outside of City Hall, and I said to them, I thought it was. So that's a plus. But as your time permits, as you can see, that Councilman Carlos Gonzalez has a lot of questions. And let me suggest that you meet with him as soon as possible, as well as the rest of us, with the appropriate members from your team. John. Councilman James.
I want to commend the administration for this project because also some people said this is new. I'm tired of seeing vacant lots just sitting in the city of Newark for 40, 50 years through 6 or 7 different mayors, and it has to change. So we need to take that step. It's been authorized by the state, and I think we should move forward, but we should work together to make sure we work all the kinks out of it, and we truly use best practices going forward. But I'm not trying to hold on to vacant lots, and so I welcome the land bank.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
That concludes the land bank issue?
Yes.
Do you want to go on and do the engineer before we?
We got it. Yeah, I know, we do. Director Scott is, I'm so sorry. We are going to go into executive session, and we beg your pardon and your patience. By the way, I do believe we have some students with us today. Is that true? If you're a student and a summer intern, please stand so that we can recognize you. We need to make your folks stand up. We're so glad to see you. We're always delighted to see our young people watch us and find out how government really does work.
Roll call for executive session?
Yes, roll call.
Yes.
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 Michelle?
Yes. Michelle.
Madam President? Madam President,
Who?
your vote, please.
Oh, yes. I apologize.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into a brief executive session.
It's going to be brief. Those who are here for budget hearings, we will be hearing from you today.
I ask that if you're not involved in the conversation, please step out in the hall.
Didn't you see the agenda?
I did, but ooh, I looked past it.
So, I like.
I'm good at the time, huh?
Yes.
I had to come out, it's hot in here.
I don't remember. Mr. Clerk, the order of the budget hearing.
Today we're doing the mayor's office, only the mayor's office. It's the last agency that needs to be reviewed.
We have voting items first, right?
Say who?
Voting items first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam President, we are back in open session. Let's pick up the three settlements for the workers' compensation. Let's start with
Thank you.
7R6A, which is a settlement of workers' compensation claim. 7R6B, also a settlement of a workers' compensation claim. And 7R6C, a settlement of a workers' compensation claim. Council of the whole to adopt?
Council as a whole to adopt.
Amador absent, Gonzalez,
Yes.
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 Quintana absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
And to the final added starter page, 7R4A is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Finance, an application to the local finance board for approval of qualified refunding bond ordinance. This is $123.5 million. Council of the whole to accept or adopt?
Council as a whole.
Yes.
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 Absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
On communications, 8E is a refunding bond ordinance, a refund of qualified general improvement bonds, Series 2010A, appropriating an amount not to exceed $88 million thereof, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $88 million in general improvements refund bonds, Series 2020 of the city for financing the cost thereof.
Council as a
We
whole.
have a request that from finance that this item be advanced and adopted on first reading.
When did they do that?
There's an email. They're asking that these three ordinances be adopted on first reading.
Oh, I know that we're prepared to do that, but I didn't get a notification.
Or we
can,
Is that one,
not that we can't do it, it's just that,
is that one for equipment,
help me out.
trucks and stuff like that, or?
No, these are all the bonds, I think.
They were going to issue some bonds to buy equipment for.
Right.
No, these are the existing bonds that are being refunded.
These are refunding bonds, okay.
Yes.
Let's proceed, Mr. Clerk.
Council of the whole to advance and adopt on first, that's 6FC.
Roll call.
Amador absent, Gonzalez.
Yes.
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 Quintana absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
8F is a refunding bond ordinance for qualified school bonds. This is $30 million. Council of the whole to advance and adopt on first as 6FD.
Roll call, please.
Amador absent, Gonzalez.
Yes.
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 Quintana absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
And
Next item.
8G is a qualified bond ordinance for the water sewer utilities. This is a bond, $5.5 million. Council of the whole to advance and adopt on first as 6FE.
Roll call to advance and adopt on first.
Amador absent, Gonzalez.
Yes.
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 Quintana absent, Ramos absent, President Trump.
Yes.
Madam President.
Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
Yeah, every time that we have an opportunity to save money on these refundings, it should be a no-brainer. We should take advantage of the lower interest as soon as we can, because why pay higher interest when we can refinance and pay lower interest?
Thank you.
Madam President, the three ordinances adopted on first reading today will be advertised in accordance with law, and a public hearing will be held at the regular council meeting of August 7th, 2019, beginning at 12:30 p.m. here in the council chamber. Council of the whole to,
Or let's say, I understood by the presentation of the Department of Police and Fire that they were going to buy some equipment through the issuing bond through the county. We should take advantage of doing that, because the county has a much better rating than the city does.
Absolutely.
So we can save a ton of money by going through the county to buy this equipment.
Yes, Councilman, we're actively pursuing that through the county. Mr. Guzman is putting together a capital plan to take advantage of the rates that the county has for us to do leasing on
Thank you.
capital equipment.
Thank you.
President, I have to
Let's go.
go and do some work someplace else.
Council of the whole to adjourn the voting portion of this meeting?
Before we
Director
adjourn-
Scott is on our conference.
So it's a special conference. Special conference now. We're going to come
Well,
out.
let's do the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I
I
make a-
apologize, Mr. Clerk.
Can I make a
Councilwoman.
comment before we adjourn out of the meeting? The item that was voted on today for the UCC, for the lots, can we just move swiftly with getting the property closed on and so forth? Because, like I said, I walked this property, these blocks last week, and DPW was gracious to help us out, as well as code enforcement, in terms of kind of getting things cleaned up. But, I mean, it's literally like maybe 4 houses on the block that people actually live in, and that's a full block. And so if we can get it closed so they can get going on their process, and kind of, get something happening in that area, I would really appreciate it, to EHD.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Council of the whole to adjourn the voting portion of this meeting?
Roll call. I'm looking at all of our departments who are waiting to make their budget presentations, so.
Amador absent, Gonzalez,
Yes.
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 President Trump.
Yes.
Madam President, we are now back in the conference meeting. We have a final presentation by the Department of Engineering. Mr. Scott?
Morning, Madam President, honorable members of the council.
Morning.
My name is Philip Scott, Director for the Department of Engineering, and here to give an update on the paving efforts that the city is undergoing right now. The mayor asked us to, present to you our plans for paving. We're also basically going to highlight the work that we have already done, and also the 2 paving projects that we anticipate doing this year. I have been meeting with the administration, the business administrator, to come up with a plan to maximize our efforts. And basically, this presentation is going to hopefully give you some insight and, hopefully prep some questions, and I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Director, was this emailed to us? I see it here. Was this emailed?
No, it was not.
You get
but
a
I
chance, because this is a good presentation, so.
Absolutely.
Chance, can you have
I
your
will
staff
email it.
email it to us? Thank you.
Okay. So as part of this presentation, we're looking at all of the paving work that we've done over the last 5 years. We've been doing this work solely funded by the grants that we received from the New Jersey Department of Transportation through the municipal aid grants. So, when we say MA-17, MA-18, that means the municipal aid grant for the years 2017 and 2018. And also last year, for the first time in a very long time, we undertook a citywide paving project, which was funded by a capital bond in the first term of the mayor's administration, where we did a number of locations where we'll also discuss that as well. And also, we'll be speaking about the efforts that PSC&G has been doing in terms of their restoration work for the GSMP program, the Gas System Modernization Program. And we have Michelle Gonzalez from PSC&G here to answer any questions with regards to that as well. So,
Any other questions for the director?
I'm sorry?
Are we in?
I asked any other questions for the director?
The director,
Councilman Gonzalez.
Lake Street between Elwood and Second Avenue had a lot of potholes. In some cases, when we use this machine that does the holes, I believe the road after that repair is worse than before. It has a lot of lumps, and it's like walking on the moon. It's like a moonwalk. So I believe that Lake Street should be revisited on the portion from Elwood to Second Avenue, because there is a lot of bumps and
You're right.
and holes.
Yes, so I'm fully aware of that street. As Councilman Ramos has made me aware of that, we are working to try to get that done this year as part of one of the existing projects that we're doing.
Yeah, we don't need to repave the whole thing. I believe it's a matter of doing
Certain
the whole-
sections.
the section closer to where Councilman Ramos lives is where most of the holes are.
Up to his driveway.
Yeah, so we're fully aware of that issue. So if we look at the slide that's shown, I believe we had it on the screen just a second ago, you'll see the different years, MA 15 through MA 20. We just submitted the application for the grant for the municipal aid year 20, which will be next year. We'll receive an award. Basically, it outlines the costs of the different projects, the grant funding versus the city's funding that we have to usually add to it in order to match, in order to get to be able to go out to bid, or well, in order to award the contract. And you'll see that both MA 15 and 16 were previously done in previous years. MA 17 is in progress. We actually just issued a notice to proceed to the contractor just yesterday. We anticipate starting that work as early as next week because we're having a kickoff meeting on Thursday. And then MA 18 is under review by the DOT. As soon as we get back approval to go forward, we will issue that to bid, and we anticipate starting that work in September of this year. We plan on doing a number of streets, with Bergen Street being the priority. We understand that that's, it's in really bad shape and it's a long stretch, so we are going to make sure that we get Bergen Street done this year prior to the winter before we have any further issues along that stretch. With regard to the citywide project that we did last year, we did approximately 27 locations and 5.4 miles of paving, and that was done with fully with city funds, separate from the municipal aid grant that we had done in the past. So the next list that we show here is that list of streets that were done under the citywide project. I know it's a little difficult to see, but I'll be happy to email out the presentation to whoever wants it. We did 27 locations. 3 of those locations were done through a partnership with NJIT.
Madam President.
So,
Yes.
Director,
Councilman James.
Director, over the years, with our limited funding for the street repaving, we know that basically the main corridors get done and some very poor streets get done. But residents have brought to me that we have actually like 1 block long streets and 2 block long streets that have like never been done in like 40, 50 years. Is there any way going forward we can kind of address those streets, or there might be dead end streets because they always fall by the wayside because they're not a main corridor or not heavily traveled?
yes, absolutely. So one of the things that the mayor would like for us to do for 2020 is to come with a robust paving program. He wants us to triple the efforts that we have done in the past, so we are working towards that. We are looking at ways that we can collaborate with other municipalities, also working with PSC&G, but we also have to be mindful that there's a lead service line replacement program that's going right now, and it's going to be going for the next 8 years. So we want to be mindful in terms of spending the taxpayers' money. We don't want to pave streets that are going to come and get ripped up as part of the plan. So we have to really collaborate to make an effort together to make sure that we are not throwing good money after bad. We want to make sure that we are doing things in a responsible way. So that is one of the things that we're doing. We have a pavement inventory software that we use to basically keep an inventory of how long it's been since streets have been paved. So we're going to go back to using that, and we also send staff out to survey the streets, as well as we usually take information from the ward council members in terms of which streets we are going to apply for the grant. So we take all of those things into consideration.
And that, if you brought that up, I would just like you to coordinate more with the council and let us know in advance, because some of the residents are complaining because they come out to replace the lead line and the police are actually towing the vehicles. So they're saying they're not getting noticed. So, if the council can get noticed through the clerk, then we could also advise, residents of a certain area that, these addresses will be worked on. Be wary that you can't park your cars on the street so that, that lead line replacement can actually go through.
That's water. Water and sewer.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
it's
water and
coming from the
sewers.
city, yeah.
Oh, they should all be,
But we need to know.
So question,
that's Councilwoman, I'm sorry.
when you get a request for a street or you determine if a street is going to be paved or approved, whatever the case might be, you're working with water and sewers to see if they're coming out to do any lead replacement on that street before you do anything?
Well, the lead service line program is relatively new, so we haven't had a chance to collaborate with them on any projects as of yet, but definitely going forward, before we will propose any new projects, we will work with them. And we have worked with them in the past, not specific to the lead service line replacement, for any utility work or any upgrades of their services. We always would meet with them. We would always take into consideration where their plan was. We sit down with them to go over their capital plan to make sure that the areas where they're working, we make sure we leave that area for another time so that they can do their work, and then we can come back and pave those streets.
Got it. Okay, so the streets that you have listed for August 1st, 2019, these are going to be completed then?
It's going to start.
And we know that for sure.
It's going to start August 1st of 2019, yes.
And finish before what, September?
Well, not necessarily before September. We anticipate getting that project done and closed out prior to the asphalt plants closing in November. Typically, they close at the end of November. The list that you see of the work that's there to be done is not just paving, but it's also to correct problems that we have with some of the sidewalks, curbs, as well as put ADA ramps in as part of that work. Any work that we do for the DOT, that's paid for by the DOT grant, requires us to provide ADA accessibility. So it's not just coming and resurfacing the street, it's also concrete work where we have to replace curbs and sidewalk as well.
So the work that you have for, the list that you have for August 1st and the list that you have for September 16th, 2019, that all will be finished before the asphalt place closes?
Yeah, the August 1st list, we anticipate being complete. The September list, we don't anticipate all of it being complete, but we're going to get as much done as we can. Like I said, the priority is going to be Bergen Street because it's a very long stretch of road of Bergen Street that we have planned to do. So we want to get that done first. And we know that the condition is very bad. We've gotten a lot of complaints since the spring of this year about Bergen Street.
So Bergen Street is going to be for August 1st?
September.
September.
Yes.
Well, if it's so bad, why is it after these streets, like Bergen Street? Is because it's on a certain grant or something?
It's under the municipal aid grant for 2018. Yeah.
Okay. Because it is very bad.
Yes, we are aware.
Madam President, if I-
Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
in addition to coordinating with the people from the lines, we should coordinate with the people building projects in the city. Let's say we have a lot of development happening in the city, and they go and they break the streets as to have the connection to the projects. And then when they fill it, normally at the beginning is flat, but then a couple of months later, you have a dip, and some cars suffer damage because of that. I believe we should coordinate and make sure that any development if they're going to resurface it, they should resurface it the way it was prior to the project.
Agreed. So as part of planning board or zoning board approval, in a lot of instances, we will require that they resurface the street if they go into the street, if there's any utility cuts or anything like that. Definitely, if a street has been paved within 5 years, we require them to resurface your street from curb to curb. We just have to do a better job at making sure they do it.
A follow-up, I believe, is where we're lacking, because I have gone through some streets in the North Ward that they have done the work, and then there's a huge dip, and your car goes in there, your axle fails, so you have to, I believe we have to follow up much in a better condition, or be more effective in our follow-up than we have been.
Agreed. We will work.
In addition, Council President, It seems to be like a lot of confusion just in terms of, not confusion, I don't want to say, but for example, we call one department for potholes, and then for paving, after like 1,000 potholes filled, we call you to get the street paved because it's just, it's deteriorating and it's bad. However, the two pieces, potholes and paving, is one thing. And this really is like kind of for the BA in terms of why we have to go through one director for potholes and then another director for paving, especially when at the end of the day, somebody from your department can come out and see that filling the pothole ain't really going to fix the problem anyway. It's just going to cause people to swerve a little differently and avoid their car getting messed up. But initially, the street needs to be repaved anyway. And you're not initially on that work in the beginning. You're coming in at the tail end after we filled the potholes 10 times. It just seems to be like kind of a structure issue in terms of which department handles all of it together. And honestly, I believe it should be one department so that it could be assessed properly. We can know what we're going to do, and we don't have to go for one for pothole and then have to turn back around and bother Director Scott for paving. And so, it just becomes like we're running in a circle as council people, contacting one director for one thing and then one for another, which sometimes impacts the same street.
Yes, so we understand your frustration, but respectfully, potholes and pavings is not the same thing. Filling a pothole is a temporary solution. Resurfacing a street and paving a street is a much different solution, a different situation. I understand, your constituents are, leaning on you, so it's your job to lean on us, and I totally get it. We are putting together a plan to deal with that, which is going to be to have an on-call paving contract. We're working with the Department of Purchasing so that we can have something that we can get an immediate fix, not something that we actually have to wait for a grant or where we actually have to go out to bid and it can take several months. That's one of the fixes that we're working towards.
That's great, but I'm not saying it's the same thing. Okay. I know it's different. What I'm saying is it just doesn't make any sense that DPW would handle potholes and you handle paving when both should be in the same department is what I'm saying. And it's not my job to determine which department. I'm just saying that it should be one so that when we're asking for potholes to continually get filled, and that's what happened to Bergen Street. Like they went out there, they repaired the potholes. It was big potholes that people were swerving. They went and did the potholes, and now they're still swerving because the street just needs to be paved. And I'm saying if you assess that work for paving or your department, then you should do potholes too, is what I'm saying, or whoever. We need to do one thing. So I understand that it's two separate things. I'm not saying that it's the same. And the on-call paving contract, that's the really great idea. So that sounds good.
Madam President.
Yes, Councilman James.
I want to slightly breaking off of paving because it's another issue. It's similar to potholes. We have a lot of businesses which just open up and just do illegal construction or illegal renovations, which, I've been talking to you over the last several weeks. How do we stop, a landlord from just opening up a church or opening up some kind of facility which hasn't gone through the proper permits, hasn't applied to zoning board or planning board? They're just sticking somebody in there for rental income. How do we avoid that?
Yes, so what we've been trying to do with the limited manpower that we have is we try to send either code officers around to see if there's any construction activity being done without permits. But there's some properties that may not require a permit, so they're not necessarily the proper authority. So we would really need our UCC inspectors to go out and make that assessment and that determination. Unfortunately, they're busy doing inspections for work that do have permits. So, we try to send people around. We used to do something like a task force on weekends where we would send inspectors out to try to catch people that's doing work without permits. I was out with Councilman Ramos about 2 weeks ago, seeing a contractor out doing work without permits. So we can do it based on what we see. Unfortunately, we just don't have the manpower to have people patrolling the streets and just looking for work being done without permits when those same inspectors are inspecting projects that do have permits and that are looking for the construction to advance and eventually get a CO and, for businesses to open up legally. So really, it becomes a manpower issue when it comes to that.
Okay, well, hopefully working through the BA and administration, maybe we can add a few more people because that is an issue. Thank you, Director.
Yeah.
Councilman Osborne.
Yeah, Director, is there anything trying to be done about these tandem dump trucks and some of these tractor trailers that's constantly coming through some of these streets? I know that's rough on the road surface.
Yes, so that's a big problem that we have in the city. A lot of trucks, we have a lot of truck traffic. The type of city that we are, we have a lot of industrial areas. We try to we have signs up in all the areas that, to limit trucks going through residential neighborhoods and things like that. But unfortunately, not everyone pays attention to signs. We can put all the signs up in the world. It really becomes an enforcement issue. We cannot, enforce through signs. We can put the signs up as warnings, but, the signs don't necessarily change behavior. So, we continue to work with, the police department and putting up signs where necessary. But, again, people are going to do, what they're comfortable and used to doing.
Yes, go ahead.
If you look back through the history, maybe the clerk could assist you. In the past, there was a plan to prevent all truck traffic from 21 because a lot of people avoid the turnpike by using 21 and coming through the city. So that just might be something for you to look into because that would help us out a lot with the traffic.
Absolutely.
Any other comments for the director?
I do have another question. How many streets are currently on the list for paving? Like, that's not here with us today. Like, do you have a running list?
So yes, we keep a running list of the 100 worst streets. So the streets that we put on the list to be paved, we take it off of that list and then we add additional streets, based and they're rated based on their condition. So it goes from very poor to poor and so have you. We have a lot of streets that are in very poor condition. So we have no shortage of streets that make that 100 worst list of streets.
But you do have a running list.
We do have a running
And
list.
so you guys are still accepting streets for recommendation that needs to be repaired?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director.
So, I'm sorry. I just want to just go a little bit more. I'll skip through a lot of sections of the as we've discussed a lot of the things already. In the presentation, we show maps that show the areas of the different streets that we are planning to do that are under the two grant projects that we are working on right now. I just really wanted to touch on the fact that there's been a lot of work that has been done by PSE&G over the past 2 years as part of the restoration requirements of the GSMP program. They have done approximately, if I can find it here, give me 1 second. So they've done approximately 42 miles of paving over the last 2 years, and that's all for work that they've done in the areas where they've actually done utility work. So the GSMP program is PSE&G updating the gas network throughout the city. I don't want to speak too much on it because that's not my area of expertise, but of those 42 miles from 2016 to 2018, they've done 442 locations. They are still doing restoration work for some of the utility work that they did in 2018. And some of that work also includes concrete curb and sidewalk as well. And again, if you have any questions specific to that, Michelle Gonzalez is here to answer those. And also, just to mention and follow up, I just wanted to talk about our plans going forward. So in 2019, we plan on doing 2 projects, the MA-17 and the MA-18, one starting this week, actually, but we have it listed as August 1st, and then another one starting in September. And then our next steps would be to put out the bid package for the MA-20 once we get the grant for next year. And then we also are going to continue to update our list of 100 worst streets. We know that we get requests often from board council members, from all council members, and we accept that. We will definitely add that to the list, and we keep that in mind. But as I mentioned, we want to do a robust paving plan for 2020. The city has 324 miles of road. Industry standard is typically between 5 and 10% to resurface. Historically, we've only been doing about 1 to 1.5%. So we would like to do somewhere in that area of the 5% of roads, so that we're talking about approximately 16 miles. So we are working to figure out ways that we can budget for it through a capital bond, as well as we're also looking at opportunities to possibly do some of that work in-house by leasing of equipment and hiring or training staff to do that type of work. So those are all things that we are working on. We're working in collaboration with the Water Department as well as PSE&G. So we're trying to do our best so that we can get as many streets resurfaced as we can this year and do even more for 2020 and going forward in the future.
Council President,
Yes.
for PSE&G, do they have any projection for 2019 to do any streets? No? No more work? Mm-hmm. And this list that's PSE&G list, I mean, next time, can we get it breaking down by ward? I see it's all together. It's not like Director Scott's list. Hi, Michelle.
Michelle Gonzalez, PSE&G Public Affairs. We didn't plan any 2019 work. The mayor had asked us to finish up any punch list items from 2016 to 2018. So that's about over 95% complete. There is some discussions that we're having internally that possibly could be some small work of 2019, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. And right now we're in the planning stages for 2020. So I'm working closely with Director and the Traffic and Signals regarding any 2020 work to try to see where we can collaborate and time it well so that streets don't have to be opened up after they've been paved. But right now, the main objective was to really complete everything that was outstanding. And I believe that's like better than 95% complete.
Good. Thank you, Michelle. And last, Director Scott, how many people do you have out doing just regular routine inspections of streets?
We only have one person that's doing
One person. Wow. So in other words, that one person, if you don't get the recommendation from that one person doing the entire city inspection of streets, you get it from the ward council person or residents that call?
Yes.
And what is for people that are viewing, people in the audience, people who are watching, probably for us council people too, what is the proper process for somebody to report that they would like their street to be paved again?
Well, typically, the request comes from your office, and we also get requests directly to our Traffic and Signals Department. We also receive, emails and, things through social media, people requesting those.
So for a regular, everyday resident, how do they report or put in a request for their street to be paved?
They could call the Office of Traffic and Signals.
Mm-hmm.
They can basically ask for their street to be added to the list of paving.
And I assume, what's that number? That's a good thing, yeah. What's the number for the people that are viewing?
973-733-3969.
And I assume that this is posted somewhere or available to people? Like, is it on the website? Like, where is this information?
Yes, it is on the website.
Okay. Another thing, circling back to what Councilman James mentioned about the illegal construction, which is a big problem in our city. I'm sure you know, I do report people every day. The BA helps me out extremely. He works 24/7 going to bust illegal construction happening even on Sundays and Saturdays. So thank you, Mr. VA, for helping me out all the time. However, it might be good to try to put out something for the community to try to assist as well. Many people, wait to call our office on Monday or Monday through Friday, or sometimes our cell phones on the weekend to tell us about illegal construction happening. But because you don't have the manpower to really get out there and inspect every day, just walking up and down looking for construction happening, it may be best to, kind of try to engage Norcas to report people, or at least report when work is happening. They might not know if it's illegal or not legal or what's so, but they can report it and you can have somebody inspect it. So it would be good to have some type of flyer, some type of social media engagement, kind of try to bring us up to the 21st century of engaging workers and what the process is and how they can report people who are doing illegal construction, because they're leaving debris, they're, messing up other people's property. We get all types of complaints. They come and do work and messed up their stuff, and now they got a leak in the basement, all types of things. But most of the time it's because Newarkers don't know how to report it. They don't know who to report it to, and we assume all the time here that people know, and they don't know, and they're not all calling the ward people. So I think we should engage people through some type of campaign to report those people, so then you get a little help in your department.
Absolutely. That's a really great idea, and what I will do is I will reach out to Newark People's Assembly. They have several meetings throughout the year, and I will engage them to see if we can find some type of way to do a campaign where we can get their assistance. Because yes, having the residents reporting this information to us is very helpful. We're very active in going out once it's reported, but again, we need someone to report it to us. So we will engage them.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. That concludes the conference meeting. If you
Yes.
just give us a few moments to do a setup for the budget hearing.
Right. Which department is first?
This is the mayor's office. It's the only one.
I'm sorry.
It's the only hearing that we have. This is a rescheduled meeting. They weren't able to appear at their regular schedule.
I see the courts and the library and the museum.
Councilwoman McIver.
Right there.
Can we have the list back?
I know.
Yes, of course.
What happened? They missed their turn?
It's okay, I'm good.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the budget hearing for the mayor's office and agencies. Madam President, we have the courts present at this time. You have the floor.
Do we have some, did they send something?
The budget books? You have
The budget books. The budget books that we have from the mayor's office.
Right. Do we have copies of the budget?
You should. We provided them, yes.
They're in the offices.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
I've reviewed mine already. If you could just get a copy or for the council president.
Bring one down.
So why don't we begin with the narrative? Mr. Clerk, I can't see the director of the courts. Can you move a little bit to your left? Yes. Oh, that's even better. So why don't we just start out, since we don't have the document, with the narrative?
Good morning, Madam President, and to the distinguished members of the Newark Municipal Council. I am the Honorable Chief Judge Deion Williams of the Newark Municipal Court.
Denise Bivens,
We can't hear you.
Good afternoon, Council. Denise Bivens, Management Assistant.
Good afternoon, Council. Diane Riley, Manager, Court Finance.
Just so we were advised not to prepare a formal statement for the sake of time, but I will say that the Newark Municipal Court handles over 500,000 cases a year. We are the biggest municipal court in the state of New Jersey. We have 86 full-time staff employees. We have 12 judges. We operate 6 day court sessions and 3 to 4 evening sessions every day. Our mission is to dispense with justice and fairness, and our goal is to offer and provide quality customer service. I'm certainly prepared to answer any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have at this time.
Yes, Councilman James.
Chief Justice, how is our community service program working?
The NCS program?
Yes.
Yeah, it's doing extremely well. We have a very high success rate, and we're running that program throughout the building. Every court in the Newark Municipal Court has access to the services offered by the Newark Community Solutions Program, so it's doing very, very well.
And is that run during the winter also?
Yes, run year-round, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the benefit of those who are watching and don't know what this program, could you spend 2 or 3 minutes just describing it? I guarantee you that someone watching could benefit from it.
Well,
Just the information, just the bare bones, but at least let the public know what the value, actually, of this program.
So basically what the NCS program is an alternative disposition program. So people who are charged with offenses in the Newark Municipal Court, low-level drug offenses, crimes, prostitution, and things of that nature, when they go to court, they are assessed by members of the Newark Community Solutions Program, and what they do is a task evaluation to try to determine what services offenders could benefit from, whether it's drug addiction, alcohol education, treatments, and things of that nature. So what they try to do is give them mandates to improve their physical and mental condition, and if they do the things that they're requested to do, when they come back upon review, the court will look to either dismiss the charge outright or to vacate or suspend the fines and penalties that may have been imposed. And the mandates can be anything from community service, cleaning the streets, cleaning neighborhoods, cleaning up graffiti, or getting personal help and treatment that a person may need.
Good. My first question is, are you fully staffed?
We are...
it's yes or no?
No, we're not.
So you're before us to tell us what you need.
Well, at present, we have 5 vacancies that we are looking to fill, and we have another 14 new positions that we were requesting as a part of our budget to get us up to a full staff capability. And those positions they vary from clerks to cashiers to demos to municipal court attendants, staff that we need to staff our court fully.
And how are we moving forward to make certain the courts are fully staffed?
Well, at the time that we prepared this budget...
I know you don't do a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but you do overtime.
We do. At the time that we prepared this budget, we had 12 vacancies. At the present time, we're down to 5. So we have been taking the steps necessary to hire people to fill those vacancies. Obviously, in the absence of those vacancies being filled, we are relying upon staff members to do and perform overtime that allows us to function on a daily basis.
Good. Any other questions? None. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Newark Museum?
Was she there last night?
Good afternoon. You may proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Harrison, the director of the Newark Museum.
And I'm Jose Roque on the finance team, an accountant.
Ms. Harrison, how long have you been the director?
Well, this was one of the updates of 2018. So the last quarter of 2018, I was appointed the new director.
Right.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
I wanted to first give a serious thank you, Madam President and council members and the staff of the City of Newark for your steadfast support of the museum over the last several years. We are excited to be here today to just share with you some insight into our goals and our commitment to the city as an anchor cultural institution. Just to take a step back, we are a $15 million organization, but we remain grateful for the $4 million that the city has continued to contribute. We raised about $11 million. And our fund development strategy, I share just a snapshot of it with you. It incorporates an orchestrated approach to dialing for dollars, if you will. We approach individual major donors. They help us support those programs that are not covered by the city budget. For example, we maintain the historic, the first schoolhouse that was here in Newark. We have a fourth graders program that we go into the schools and have those fourth graders also come to the museum. That is, those are two examples of individual major donors. We also apply for and have an aggressive program on foundation grants. So the Victoria Foundation, the Dodge Foundation, the Ford Foundation is actually, these are supporters of our education and public programs. We also look for and seek corporate gifts. So our Prudential is a major donor for us, Bank of America, Horizon, and we pay a lot of attention to earned revenue, rentals, and our recently increased rentals to film crews and television crews to come to the museum so that we could actually increase our earned revenue. And then we do events. So our recent gala and our fall luncheon, we were able to raise just a little bit over $1 million. These funds help us really support what is essentially 4.2 acres of urban land right here around Washington Street. That includes our planetarium, our historic Ballantyne House, the first firehouse from the city, the sculpture garden that the city has us maintain, and our STEAM and innovation labs. By STEAM, we really put the art into the education for science, technology, engineering, and math. So we have actually over 35 high school students from Newark that we have for 3 years of their high school years so that they are able to be competitive. We create curriculum based on art to support science so that they are competitive. In fact, our seniors yesterday and the next 2 days are participating in a program called Voice Today. And this is augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and 2 of our students have been praised for their work of developing a technology into tennis shoes. So we want to do our part as a museum to help the schools, and that is K through 12 as well as at the college level. And then I just wanted to share with you that 2018 was a terrific year for us. We opened our new doors, the front doors of the museum, so that we could really be more engaged and activating as our job as a cultural institution within the downtown district, but also for the greater city of Newark. We also have reestablished our point of view. I am committed for us to tell all of the stories about the diaspora, whether it's the Black diaspora, the African diaspora, the Brazilian, the Portuguese, the Asian. We want to use our collections to tell these stories so that we're more relevant across the city. Our goal is to really simply be an engaged anchor cultural partner for the city. We want the museum to be a destination, location, And we want to lockstep with the city of Newark being a destination location. And we know that if we can accomplish this, that the cultural economy will grow and contribute to the economy of Newark. So our goal is the 5 strategies, if you will, that we have. Financial stability is always at our core. We want to present at the fall, you'll see a bold new image of the museum. We'll be opening a cafe so that we can activate that area around Washington Park and have the Newark residents who are, we continue to offer Newark residents free admission to the entire museum, not to just one area. And this is something that you don't normally see in our budget document, but we are committed to have an internal cultural shift in the museum, meaning all of the staff, diversity, inclusion, access, being relevant. This is important to our staff, for us to provide training for the staff so that we can be a more inclusive organization for the city. We will not be a country club museum that happens to sit in the city of Newark. We will be of Newark and be telling those stories so that we can actually have more engagement from our Newark residents. And this means that we will actually, we're developing an engagement plan which embraces the rich tapestry of the different diasporas, cultural diasporas here in the city. And we will be realigning and leveraging our current assets so that we can actually have more revenue that will come in to complement the funds that you give us. We have asked for an increase this year, and that is in hopes that we can address some of our key issues with our building that we have to take care of. There are several buildings on the campus as well as the grounds. We are poised to always take care of the emergency situations that happen. For example, we just had a fire alarm breakdown, and we had to find $300,000 to take care of it. We found it, but when we do that, it then takes away from all of the programming that we do, and the public programming and education programming. So our hope is that this additional support will help ensure that the Newark Museum continues to be the safest facility in Newark for school children and their families. And thank you again for your support.
Questions?
I just have one comment, Council President. I just want to thank you, our new director, and welcome you. I know we've met already before, but I just want to welcome you again to the city of Newark. I know you're coming all the way from San Francisco, but I also want to commend you because most of the things that we spoke about regarding activating the community to the Newark Museum, I'm happy to hear it as part of your, going into your tenure here as the director. One of my #1 problems is that the Newark Museum is not utilized enough by Newark residents. We don't seem to engage Newark residents at the Newark Museum, and we just think it's a place, a nice, pretty place for people of outsiders to come in and enjoy, and it is. You are definitely welcome, but we do want to encourage Newarkers to come to the museum and utilize it, and so that's one of the reasons why we hosted an event there this year when you first came regarding the day at the museum for Central Ward residents, because we want to engage Newarkers in the history of our city and more so in our museum. So I thank you for that information that you provided, and we're looking forward to however we can assist you, as the council to reach your goal in getting more Newarkers to engage.
Thank you, Councilwoman McIver. Just to let you know, actually starting tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, the Newark Public Library, the main branch, has been very, very supportive of allowing me to now go to each of the libraries, the branches, in each of the wards. And we start tomorrow, and we'll be doing this all the way through the early fall, because we want to make sure that we're at all of them. because we want to remind, and I personally will be doing these presentations to remind our Newark residents that it is free. Because I believe that sometime over time, it's not clear that it is free and the services are free, and so we want to make sure that we send that message by going to each of the wards. And we're collaborating, the Newark library branches will be our host, and we thank them for that.
Got it. And lastly, if we could just get a run-in, if you can add us all to the mailing list or whatever it is that you guys have, so that we can stay up to par of the events and everything that's happening at the library and museum. I know most of the times I find out things via social media, or somebody might run it past me, or I'm driving by. But it would be nice if the council can be well informed of the things and the activities happening there on a weekly or monthly basis, so that we can share with constituents if they want to take part in some of the things happening at the Newark Museum.
We will certainly do this. I can tell you that we have added a additional 2 team members to our marketing team because we just didn't have the capacity, and now we want to incorporate social media as well as the old-fashioned print.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President? Well, mostly all of us have web pages or social media pages where we can help you with the outreach. We'll be glad to do it. I remember going to the library like in the 6th, 7th grade, and even before that, in 2nd grade, and how it exposes us to things that otherwise we'll never have exposure to. So we'll be glad to reach out, and as a matter of fact, I can't wait to come over and tour it myself. I haven't been there in a couple of years myself, so.
Well, we want to invite you and give you a personal tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know that when adults or children come to the museum at least 3 times in a year, that you're much more likely to come more often. And we will do our job on making it relevant so that you actually have a good experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So, first of all, let me thank you and your staff for the fabulous job that you're doing. I'm a great believer that reading and the love of not just reading, I'm looking at Jeffrey, I'm sorry, but the ability to connect in different ways through your youth group. They are phenomenal, and I'm delighted to know that you are still, that they're still alive and well. I have not been there for a minute, but it excites me to know that the program is still going on strong. So I do have a question, and I was at the event along with Councilwoman McIver last night. It was alive and well, trust me, it was great. But approximately how many visitors have you been able to track that come through the museum versus, let's say, 5 years ago?
I can share with you that we had this past year approximately 70,000 visitors. We had, and that is distinct from the about 45,000 students that come through K through 12. We are trying very aggressively to increase that number. We know that we should be at twice that number of visitors with the amount of residents that are here in Newark. And so this is our why the notion of the expanded audience, having an expanded audience plan is what we have been working on so that we can double that visitorship.
Anyone else?
Do you still do the brunches? Like they used to have jazz brunches?
Jazz brunch.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that because we just kicked off jazz at lunchtime in the garden. And this will be happening. This is another commitment for us to get this information out to you, because from now for the next 4 weeks, there will be jazz in the garden starting at noon.
So
every day?
And there is bits and bites, so there will be a nice lunch.
And what days?
That is on Wednesdays.
Wednesday, I was going to say Wednesday. So could you send that information to us?
Yes.
Unlike my colleagues, I do not have a webpage, I think. Is that what it's called?
Webpage.
A webpage.
We will make
But I
sure.
do have a way to connect with the community. And I would love to, certainly, the jazz brunches just add another level of quality to what goes on at the museum.
And our film series that has been going on this summer that started 2 weeks ago, and those are on Wednesday evenings at the museum, free.
So you can send that information so we can help you get this out.
Yes.
To our residents.
Passes for that on our desk.
Do you need a pass?
We have some passes.
You need a
for
pass?
the library, I believe.
You will have passes sent to you. We'll make sure that you have passes. We actually sent you passes to the film festival, but we'll make sure that you get passes to the jazz festival as well.
Okay, thank you. So, one question, probably, this is probably difficult. If you were to make a judgment just in the state of New Jersey, and I do this on a regular basis because I do belong to several statewide organizations, and when we talk about libraries and museums and other cultural attractions, where would you put Newark? I'm going to tell you where I put Newark.
Well, I would put Newark as one of the top cultural attractions, and the reason is because people are really looking for an alternative, relevant, and engaging type of cultural activities, and so it's easy to get to Newark. And this is why people are, I think we are poised to be, why my vision is for us to be a destination museum by 2021, because this is a place that it's easier to get here from New York than to Brooklyn. It's easier for the Brooklyn folks. It's like, where do we go to look for even more attractions?
Absolutely. Is that it? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Newark Library?
Right there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thank you, Madam President and Council, for inviting us here this afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Trezak, and I'm the Director of the Newark Public Library, and I've brought with me a couple of my staff.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Spencer Scott. I'm the Chief Development Officer at the Newark Public Library.
Hello, I'm Rod Jefferson, Comptroller.
I want to start off by saying, first of all, thank you for your ongoing commitment and support for the libraries here in Newark. I want to thank the City Council, and the Mayor's Office as well. I feel quite fortunate to be in Newark, where the city provides us with such wonderful support. I want to start off my remarks by saying that last year, when I did the presentation, one of the questions that you had for us is around our fundraising and our efforts in that regard. I fully understand that the library must take responsibility for securing some of our own additional support, and I'm very pleased to say that we've made a great deal of progress in that area. In 2016, prior to my arrival, the library's budget was approximately 90% city-supported. Little over 90% city-supported. That has dropped to roughly 75%. So about 25% of our funding now is coming from outside sources. And that's in great deal due to these two gentlemen sitting on my left and my right. In 2016, grants and gifts made up about 8% of the library budget. They now are more than 20% of the budget. And in 2016, for example, we had about $600,000 in grant income. This year, we'll have nearly $2.5 million in grant income. And in particular, I want to note that we've had tremendous support as well from Senator Teresa Ruiz and Assemblywoman Eliana Pinto-Marin. And together, the two of them have helped us to secure $400,000 in state support last year and $200,000 this year. We continue to expand opportunities for giving and our partnerships, and Panasonic has provided us this year with $50,000 to support our summer reading program, and we're hoping that this is just the beginning of a beautiful relationship. They also have provided us with a substantial decrease in cost to replace our aging air conditioning in the main library, and we've started that project already. The reduction is about a 90% reduction in price, by the way, so it is quite substantial. We're looking at ways in which we can reduce expenditures. This past year, we had contract negotiations with the two unions that represent our staff, and as a result of those negotiations, we were able to eliminate compensatory time on Saturdays with the agreement of our unions, and that resulted in about a $250,000 annual savings for the libraries.
When you get a chance, can you share more with us about how you went around, I'm sorry, not run around, how you went about negotiating that? We need to share it with some other people.
Oh, sure, sure. Do you want me to do that now, or I've got a few more remarks, and then I can talk about
It's up to you. The order is not. I just want to make sure you...
I'd be happy to do that. All of these changes and looking at taking a fresh look at our budget, though, also come at a time of dramatic increases. We sent around copies of our annual report, which I hope that you all received. I hope you had a chance to take a look at some of our statistics. Last year, the libraries welcomed almost 500,000 visitors. And for us, that is an increase of nearly 78% in patron visits. We've also seen an increase at our programs and events of 352%. If you've been in the library recently, I hope that what you've seen is a very active space with multiple programs occurring simultaneously. We've seen increases in questions that are asked, computer sessions, especially computer sessions for those who may have reading or hearing impairments in our new Center for Users with Disabilities. We've seen increased use in wireless and also a dramatic increase in use of both audiobooks and ebooks as well as traditional print. We've increased our partnerships with the city, and we are providing key leadership in particular for the Mayor's Book Club this year, working with United Way, the Mayor's Office, and others. And by fall, I'm happy to say, because of a renewed partnership with the schools, we are going to automatically register all 38,000 students and all 7,000 staff of the Newark Public Schools.
Fantastic.
So they'll automatically have library cards. And we're hoping that by fall of next year, we will be integrating a grade 2 visit as part of the curriculum. So every student in grade 2 will have to make a visit to the library. The schools have been a phenomenal partner for us this year in particular. We have requested an increase that we're hoping that you will consider, and that's in response to increased use and community requests. Our branch libraries remain closed on Mondays. That's in all the wards, and we also have reduced hours on Saturdays. And if you'll recall, last year we made a similar request, and we're hoping for a positive response this year. Now, in response to the question around negotiations with the unions, I'll have to say, I'd like to start off by saying first that we maintain a very positive relationship with our union. And I have both formal and informal meetings in my office with the union staff. I think in the 2 years that I've been here, I think we've had one union grievance, and that was actually our fault. It was a procedural issue that was on our fault, in Rod's area, actually, but it has been resolved. And we try to avoid grievances by working collaboratively with the union. The last year, the city did provide us with an increase, so we went into negotiations starting with the fact that we were bringing everybody up to $15 an hour, which was a mayor's initiative, which we were following, and we did have some union members below 15. We were also using the increase last year to bring the library staff up to New Jersey Library Association minimums because we were losing staff to other libraries in New Jersey, and we were having difficulty recruiting new staff to Newark. We are now above those New Jersey minimums, so we're in a good position. So I think, to answer your question in brief, we had a good starting point with the union because of the relationships, and then also going in with two really good leading items that we were putting on the table. It resulted in a very positive negotiation.
That's excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
Yes. Councilman James.
I want to commend you and your staff on the inclusivity and the residents of the city of Newark, especially with your music festivals you have on Fridays.
Thank you.
I haven't been yet, but you know, it's the talk of the town. You know, the library has music going on, and I've heard nothing but positivity from it. So I look forward to you, you know, keeping that up, bringing some downtown nightlife. For folks who say they're not coming to Newark, they are actually coming, and they're in the library on a Friday night.
They are. We're getting about 1,500 people every Friday night now.
Wow. Oh, wow. Unbelievable.
And the city has actually been very helpful in ensuring that it's a safe environment. We have multiple food trucks that are showing up, and we have vendors that are showing up as well, and the city has helped with code enforcement on that. So it has helped to maintain a really positive environment. I think what we've also noticed this year in particular is we're now getting visitors. We've got to find a way of documenting this because we know that we're getting visitors from Atlanta, from Charlotte, from Washington, D.C., from Philadelphia. They come up like on a Thursday afternoon, they stay for the library's party, and then Friday night, and then they go back someplace on Saturday. Yes. So the library is also contributing to tourism, right?
Absolutely.
And we got to find a better way of documenting that so I can share that more. So next year when we do our annual report, I hope that what you'll see is the numbers, but more the stories.
And how much is the admission, or is that's free, right?
It's free. Exactly. We are asking for donations, and we do get some donations, about 265 a week. Okay. But it's free, and people come every week. The nice thing about it is it's family focused, so they bring the kids, they bring their lawn chairs and their coolers. They start setting up. It doesn't start till 6, but I think they start showing up 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then they all leave very quietly at 11 o'clock when it shuts down.
Congratulations. Let's keep that up.
Yes, congratulations. It is a terrific program.
Thank you.
I was going to, first, Councilman James, it's really, really nice to, you know, dance. I haven't been down there either to listen to any house music or dance, but I know you guys do a lot of work partnering with different outside organizations regarding attacking literacy in our city, which is a huge issue. We have multiple residents who can't read, and so and that's facts, you know, in terms of residents being somewhat illiterate to reading, and these residents have children as well, and so I know previously when we were there, when United Way was there, kicking off one of the events that they may have been having in regards to promoting reading. Have you guys thought about anything initially that you can do on your own in terms of supporting literacy in our communities, and how are we going to build to get people to read more and help them read, rather they're grown adults or they are children? I would be really interested to see what you guys can do as an organization separately, or even through partnership like you've already been doing, to do more of that in the community.
Thank you. Literacy really is sort of our meat and potatoes of the things that we do, being a library. And probably one of our most popular programs is our Summer Reading Club, which is separate and distinct from the Mayor's Book Club. And that, in fact, is what Panasonic supported this year, the Summer Reading Program. In addition to encouraging kids to read, we also provide free summer lunch because we know that with the kids, if they don't get a nutritious meal, and in that case, the lunch that we provide may be the only meal they get during the day,
yes, now that's
they're not going to read. So we provide a lunch as well as the opportunity to read. We have partnerships with NJPAC. We do a program called Books on the Move, which encourages reading and dance. We have programs with schools. We send out visitors, we send out librarians to the community, and this year, for the first time in a while, we actually have now hired full-time a literacy coordinator to help us to ensure that what we're doing is consistent across all the wards.
Correct. I like that. I like those things. And so those are things that we would not know that are happening, and I'm sure people don't know they are happening. And so just like I charged Dr. Harrison or Miss Harrison? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to give you a, PhD. The same thing, we have to try to get the information out, and so we want to be supported from the city's level in terms of getting the things out. I know I do a lot of communication pieces, because that's the number one thing residents complain about not knowing about stuff. And so any way that we can help, if you can get the information to us so that we can get it to people. The lunch reading, that's significant. I think if people just knew about that, they would just be probably dropping kids off to come down to the library, or at least sending them there to you to read and eat, which go hand in hand. And so if we could just get that information, so that, I'm not sure if other council members knew about those programs, but that's something we would like to share and get it out there to people. So on a monthly basis, whenever it may be, if we can get flyers and things that we can share, and so that we can get the information out to the community. And that's going to continue to be my preaching. You'll hear that from me a lot, because everything is about outreach. And I think sometimes we always have this mindset that people come to us, or they're going to come to you per se, and they're just not doing that. And so we have to find some way to get outreach to our community, and to the point where they're engaged to come to you. So definitely anything that you can give us that we can kind of give to our constituents would be really helpful.
Thank you. We will send you information. I will add to that a couple of things, one of which is that a brochure that we produced for our summer reading program. We produce everything in both Spanish and English, but this particular brochure won an award through the New Jersey Library Association. This particular year, the question was asked of the museum, basically, how do we measure our institutions against what others are doing? And I think that's always best when those outside are telling you that you're doing good work. So we'll send along a copy of those brochures. But I'll also add that anytime any of you are interested in hosting one of your town council meetings in one of our branch libraries, we would love to host it for you. We'll work with your office. We'll schedule rooms. We'll bring in food. We'll basically do the work, and you can show up, and we'll host it for you.
And that is true. But I do want to thank you guys for hosting me for story time with Councilwoman McIver. It is great. I appreciate you guys for letting me use the branch, to do that. And, I'll look to do a town hall there too. But we do like the story time. It's a nice time to engage with parents and kids. And we're going to look forward to be working with your staff to schedule our upcoming ones for this year. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me commend you and congratulate both you and the museum on the community outreach. I think you are the premier representatives when it comes to the arts and to literacy. And as Councilman James has already said, thank you so much. I don't know if you know of the how well received the Mayor's Book Club is. As a former teacher and students, it's my understanding, and I hear this on Sunday when I go to Sunday school. Several of our young people have become a part of that program, and they brag about it on a regular basis. So, as Councilwoman McIver has said, if you'll just share with us when something is occurring, we'll do our absolute best. Not only that, as I close, many years ago, council members were invited to read at the various branches.
We like to read.
And yes. So we'd like to be invited, not just to the schools, but to the library, to read to groups of students. We haven't done it in a very long time. but this has been an encouragement. The mayor himself is, of course, a literary artist. And so I'd like to become a part of what you're doing. And so would some of the other council members.
You'll be hearing from
We
us.
find time for things like this.
They're fun.
Yeah, the schools invite us, right?
The schools
Public
invite
schools,
us.
we read in the schools. But,
We'll send you invitations. You'll hear from us soon.
and I have just a quick comment.
Yes.
I just want to congratulate you on a job well done.
Thank
I remember we met when you first came, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years ago?
A little over 2.
And you were looking around like, how am I going to do this? But you've done great.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for your commitment.
Thank you.
Same here, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, thank you, Director, and to your staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
The mayor's office?
That's right.
Where's Mitty?
Is it David?
Mitty's been waiting. You know,
No.
So you did.
Okay.
Are we waiting for
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff? You look mighty handsome today.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Dave. Assalamu alaikum.
You have this thing. Kidding. Oh, wow. I don't make this. What? I love her. Selena makes $121,000. I love her. What? And
No.
Mr. Muhammad, we have a sidebar for just a minute? Because I'm getting ready to go.
yeah.
I know. I heard it was good. Yeah.
Waiting for David.
He was here.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Clerk?
We are back in session. The mayor's office is at the table. Chief of Staff, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Okay, my name is Midi Baraka Jr., Chief of Staff to the Mayor. I have with me
David Mohammed, Mayor's Office of Affirmative Action.
Maddie, Chief Clerk, Mayor's Office.
So first, I want to thank the council for all their support throughout our tenure here in the city since 2014. Just want to give you, thank you for supporting all the mayor's initiatives. I know it's really hard to count to 5, but every year we get to do that. Under the mayor's leadership, we have an outstanding BA. I want to give credit to him in terms of moving the city forward and doing the day-to-day work that it takes to get it done. We don't have any significant changes in our budget. I know you asked questions about the budget, and I want to give it up to Maddie. She did an excellent job in putting together our budget for our office. But I want to give David the floor to talk about affirmative action.
Once again, David Mohammed, Mayor's Office of Affirmative Action. Basically, as the Chief of Staff mentioned, we are a division of the Mayor's Office. Presently, we monitor about 37 projects that we're monitoring now. 12 of them are city projects, the other are tax-abated projects. We do that with a staff of 5, and we monitor for minority and women participation and Newark residency participation when it comes to workforce, as well as minority and women participation when it comes to business enterprises. And so if you have any questions based on that, I'm sure you do.
Councilman McCallum.
You know, my main question is, how are you making out with the parking garage? That was an issue last week, a couple weeks ago.
Sure. So with the parking garage, that is a project that is pretty much was contracted with the parking authority. We did have some challenges in the beginning as far as them getting their necessary paperwork to us in order for us to use that to monitor them. They've gotten better as far as that. There still are challenges when it comes to the minority and women business enterprise. This is a union project, so the agreement is they have a PLA, which means that the parking authority has an agreement with the building trades unions to solicit Newark residents and minorities from the union halls. So we've been pretty much on, DOBCO is the main contractor for that project, and we've been in communication with them to make sure that they show us proof that they are soliciting for Newark residents in those union halls, the particular trades.
Madam Clerk.
Yes. Go ahead, Councilman Osborne.
I just want to take this opportunity to commend Mr. Mohammed on the effort that his office is doing and making sure that we do have no residents on these projects. I know it's a challenge dealing with the unions, especially skilled trades, when it comes to utilizing no residents on these projects. And I just want to take this opportunity to say, like I said, keep up the good work. And what could we do as far as resources go to help you? You say you're working with a staff of 5?
Yes, sir.
Is that enough?
Of course not.
Yeah.
But, you know, you know, like we said, we're managing with what we have. We do with the amount of the demographics in the city are changing. We get more and more of Spanish-speaking people that are working on the sites. So in our office, we're looking to bring on someone in the future that is Spanish-speaking that can go out and monitor the sites, because We know just because a person may not have a command of the English language does not mean that they're not skilled, and that does not mean that they're not Newark residents. So we wanted to make our office, if we are the office that monitors for diversity, we wanted to increase diversity in our office.
Yes. Council President?
Yes,
I
go right ahead.
do want to say thank you, Mr. Muhammad, for everything that you and your department is doing regarding, making sure the people are compliant to, what our requirements are. I just want to continue to tell you to engage my office to be able to be of assistance to you, because it is very helpful to know different developers and people who are not following our requirements or not being respectful to our requirements, because we definitely don't want to continue to do business with those people or offer them new business in the city. And so any way we can do to be supportive of you, definitely 5 people for all of the things we have going on. The Central Ward alone needs 5 people. And so definitely anything that we can do to increase staff for your department and make sure that we can make sure people are more compliant. I don't think it's this time and place is a good time to talk about the things that we always talk about, as well as with the mayor in terms of the city starting their own training facility or partnering with somebody to get our own training facility. Many times we are lacking skilled people in our city to be able to take these jobs. So while jobs are available, we have to have the Newark residents to take those jobs. And so definitely I'm looking forward to us continuing the conversation. I know the mayor is working on a plan for us to have that, but it would be definitely beneficial to the city to have a training facility or partner with someone to train people to be able to have the skilled jobs that are available out there, because we just don't want a bunch of laborers. We want some plumbers and electricians and different skilled people to take those jobs available. So thank you, Mr. Muhammad.
No, thank you, and I also would like to publicly, personally thank the mayor for his support and really, not just window dressing and saying that we need this. He really wants, and he pretty much charges making sure that if he rides by a place and it doesn't look like the representation is there, he definitely reaches out, and it's good to know that we have that support and that backing. So, though I might be a small person, I feel big when I got the mayor's office and the council behind me. I also would like to further thank the mayor and Deputy Mayor Rahman Muhammad in some of those projects where they were not compliant, and there were some resources that we were able to get from those projects that we just completed our first of many OSHA 30 classes that we had here. We see that the state of New York is now requiring that if anyone is to step on a construction site, they must have at least OSHA 30. We were doing OSHA 10, but now we've stepped it up, so we had 20 individuals that completed, and we're looking to start another class in the next month or so.
Good. So my statements are directed actually to those who are watching as well as those who are sitting in this chamber to represent the office of the mayor. I've had the privilege of serving under 3 mayors, and each has been different in their implementation of the role of mayor. But I must say to the Chief of Staff and to Mr. Muhammad and to the public, access actually works in City Hall. The council members are free, and I use that word intentionally, are free to speak to a director, to ask questions, whereas in the past it was forbidden. And so I have to compliment the administration on access, because access is what makes things happen. I get the chance to travel around this country, and not actually outside of the country. Newark is a buzzword, a buzz phrase. And I have to thank the leader, our mayor, in his absence, but certainly to the Chief of Staff as well, who represents the office, that it is a pleasure. It really is. Transparency is a part of every day's operation. And for those who have been watching these proceedings for years, you understand exactly what I mean. So congratulations to the administration. We're partners, and I appreciate that we can share honestly with the Office of the Mayor and his representatives. I am particularly interested in the mayor's programs for young people. And sometimes we don't always get the information. So can you, Deputy Mayor, Chief of Staff, can you put us on someone's list so that we get, Andrea Mason is wonderful, I call her name on purpose, but there are events that are going on for young men and young ladies at the Shani Baraka Center, all of those places. It would be helpful. People do call our office and ask, where can they go for help? And these are the agencies where they can absolutely find help. After the meeting is over, to the Chief of Staff, if you could just give me 5 minutes of your time personally. It's nothing negative, but I do have a question. People think that everybody in City Hall makes a fortune. No, they don't. I need to tell you that every cent that gets paid to someone, they earn it. Not because they're a friend or a relative, but they earn their salaries. And so I do want to address one particular person, which I'm not going to do in public. It's not you.
I have a quick comment.
Yes.
I just want to congratulate the mayor's office, the administration, for that access. It makes our jobs easier. We don't have to really get on anybody's schedule to meet with them. We can just meet with the director or the chief or the mayor and get things done and keep it moving. So I know I really appreciate that because it wasn't always access. Yeah, it wasn't always like that. And, you know, Eric comes up to the BA Pennington comes up to our offices and explains the situation. And I had a conversation with some people on the elevator, like, you guys vote for everything that they put in front of you. And I explained that's not the situation, that we have discussions before we get up here and actually vote on things. So there's no reason to grandstand once we're actually at the meeting because we've already discussed it and had our input. So I just want to put that out there that we really appreciate that. And, you know, so working as a team. We're not adversarial.
Yeah, that's true.
We work as a team, and that's what I like doing.
Absolutely.
Madam President, can I make one more?
Teamwork. Yeah, teamwork makes
the dream work.
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to listen to the audience know tomorrow at 9:30 at the Trek Center, the Local 55 is having an orientation for residential laborers. So if anybody listening interested, that the doors open at 9:30.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
Food time.
Thank you.
We got one more to say.
Yep. Mr.
It's one more.
Chief of Staff, don't leave. Who do we have?
It's the business administrator, no?
Eric?
Oh, no, we done? Okay.